Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are here to do the SmackDown recap, which took place on May 9th, 2025, in Dayton, Ohio. We kick things off with a match between LA Knight, Damian Priest, and Solo Sikoa, and Jacob Fatu. Before the match, we see a bit of worry between Knight and Priest about having each other's back. Go figure, as they are both expected to be fighting in the U.S. title match the night after. But despite Solo and Jacob getting 90% of the offense in through this match, Knight and Damian Priest just and exchanging unwanted tags throughout the whole match. Knight and Damian Priest still get the win after LA Knight gets a BFT on Solo Sikoa. Gotta feel bad for Solo. He takes a lot of pens on Jacob's behalf, but obviously Jacob isn't wanting. We aren't wanting Jacob to be the one to take these. And more of the same because Jacob ends up taking out everyone after the match, and in kind of what we all thought, or at least I thought, was the last bit of the segment. But then, can't forget about the fourth person in the match, who wasn't involved in the tag, which was Drew McIntyre, who comes and claymores Jacob for his troubles. So it wasn't actually Jacob who stands tall; it is Drew McIntyre. So yeah, a pretty good enough segment. Don't love the tag teams of competitors the day after, but I thought this served well enough and got everyone a bit more over. We then see Chelsea Green and Piper Niven versus Zelina Vega and a tag member to yet be named. And we then find out that this is the returning Alexa Bliss. And this match was pretty much all about Bliss getting her that hot tag. And then once she did get in, it was pretty obvious that that was going to be the end. And Bliss ends up getting the win with his sister Abigail. So again, this match was all about Bliss. Kind of have to feel bad about Chelsea Green and the Secret Harvest here. They had quite a bit of momentum, especially Chelsea. But after having lost a couple to Zelina and then losing her title to Zelina, they are very much back on the decline, which is a shame to see. But it was good to see Alexa back, and maybe we can see Chelsea in a different scene soon. I think there's only so much left she can do in this particular US scene. Then we see, dare I say, a good Charlotte Flair promo. It was something different. She cuts a promo, and I feel like whether it was something she already had planned before, but I feel like she kind of had her pulse on the crowd here. She basically mentioned that she didn't have. She said that after starting the film, that she didn't believe Tivy enjoyed her Mania moment, and they show a picture of her on the jumbotron, and she, as we all know, that was very much a fight, more than a match. And she had her battle wounds for sure. And kind of after the match, she said, well, basically, I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm not done with that. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to that title. And of course, the crowd instantly boos this, and Charlotte demands that they respect her, and if they don't stop booing, that they're going to leave. Well, of course, the crowd does not stop booing, and she does, in fact, leave the ring. She genuinely looks distraught here. She wasn't doing her normal shtick where your boos don't affect me. I think this kind of makes her feel like more of a real person. So I kind of like this promo a lot more than most. Most of our promos are very copy paste. This one felt like it was something that's a bit different. On her way out to the crowd, or out from the ring, we then see her kind of do a quick run and stare down with Jade Cargill. So possibly something in the future there, and we shall see. But one more thing to note on Charlotte is as she's leaving. I think this might have been a little bit later. I can't remember if it was before the next match or after. But she's seen walking to her car, upset, and she demands that the driver take her to the airport. The car door is slammed in her face, and we then see pop in screen Alexa Bliss. And Alexa Bliss says, "Let's chat." So the Jade Cargill, Charlotte possibly hinting at something in the future, but more so, it seems like Alexa and Blair, which would be a very interesting combination. So I'm interested to see where that goes. But then getting to the actual match, which is Jade Cargill who ran into Charlotte on her way down to the ring, and Nia Jax. Um, Tiffany arrives at ringside right before the match starts as well, who will come into play a bit later. Um, yeah, this wasn't my favorite match. It wasn't a bad match, but Nia really slowed this match's pace down. So I do feel like that helps Jade still, who I feel like is still a bit green, but is making improvements. Um, Several you can't wrestle and you suck chants for Nia throughout the match. I don't know why, but we even talked about this last week, I think, when they announced this match that surely Naomi is going to get involved here and cost Jade. For whatever reason, I forgot about that, and so I'm sitting here thinking I think Jade's the right person here, even though it would be a face v face, which WWE doesn't love to do. As soon as I saw her in ringside, I completely forgot about Naomi for a second, and then obviously, well, I guess first, I guess how in the order of events, um, Tiffy comes a little closer to the ring, and I think it might have been around the same time actually. But regardless, it doesn't matter. The outcome is the same. Jade gets distracted, hits an annihilator from Nia Jax, which still looking kind of weak, but is what it is. And Nia Jax gets the number one contender. I feel like it's a bit of a write off here because I don't think Tiffany is going to lose to Nia, but I guess if this is the way we have to continue the Jade Naomi bit, then Nia can just be another stepping stone for Tiffany. So it is what it is. KP, thoughts on the opening match as well as the tag match? So a couple tag matches there at the beginning, as well as the number one contendership, and the Charlotte promo with the potential workings with Alexa Bliss. What are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, a little bit of an up and down start to SmackDown. I think I'll quickly just summarize. Going into a little bit more detail with the opening contest, yeah, it was fine, wasn't it? You know, just helped continue the building blocks towards the match at Backlash. Solo Sikoa being in there as part of the tag team with Jacob Fatu, basically to take the pin, not make anybody look bad going into the match. Yeah, it makes sense. I think it was quite smart from WWE. I like the fact that Drew McIntyre has been sort of like away from the situation, but also like watching on from afar enough to then come on in at the end and then obviously stand tall after taking down Jacob Fatu. So it made him look very strong going into the match at Backlash. But yeah, it was absolutely fine. I think we saw a little bit of LA Knight and Damian Priest, getting each other's faces before the matchup, and then during the contest as well. Yeah, it was nice to see sort of them just like continuing to build it as the Fatal Four Way, and these guys aren't buds. They're not friends. They're working together to take down a common enemy, and then they clearly don't agree with each other's methods as well. So yeah, absolutely fine opener. Kind of fun in parts, and just did what it needed to do. I think that's the great way to summarize that. The tag team match was fine as well. I think that the return of Bliss was great. It's good to see Alexa Bliss back in the ring. As to what capacity we get her in going forward, we will have to wait and see. She's been very sort of stop-start since coming back at the Rumble. So I'd like to see her a bit more often. But obviously that depends on, how things are going to go with her availability and whatnot. But I feel like every time we sort of like see her come back and, we just get like a little taste of her, we want a little bit more, and then she's gone again. So hopefully this time she's around it a little bit more permanently, and then we can sort of like enjoy like a more long-term thing from her. I thought the return was a little flat. I'm not gonna lie, not because of the crowd were great, but just because of what the moment was. A tag team with Zelina Vega. I don't know. I just didn't really think that this was really the right way of doing it. Maybe that's just me being a little bit too overcritical there, but it just felt a little bit strange and odd to me. I don't know, but the return was good. I am glad to see her back, getting the win with Zelina, and ultimately the interaction with Charlotte Flair. I'm more intrigued in that. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think Bliss is in the US title picture. I think that's probably not going to happen. Maybe this was just to get some screen time. There's a spot on the card, we can work it in, get Bliss in on a return. That seems like what the plan was here. So I guess that's fair enough, just to get her some on screen time, and then we can obviously just like move her on quickly. And it looks like they've already got that next part planned out. But yeah, the match was fine. You know, Zelina and I guess Alexa Bliss now getting another win over Chelsea Green and co. So Zelina's high at the moment on the momentum. So fair play to her for that one. But yeah, decent enough match. The situation afterwards with Charlotte Flair, that promo, I thought was great. I thought it was brilliant. Her coming out and finally sort of like admitting that the crowd just aren't going to do it for her. They've been very vocal since she came back about their displeasures and how irritated they are about what she does and when she comes and goes and all that kind of situations. So for her to basically say like, look, I'm not going to give you guys another chance here. I'm going to leave if you keep on doing this. And then she left. I thought that was great. So yeah, I could appreciate the heel segment from her there. Referencing Tiff and how she looked after the WrestleMania match. Yeah, I just thought it played out quite well, to be honest. And then obviously the little interaction with Jade was quite interesting. That could be a match going forward, which I'm kind of keen to see. Going into the match afterwards with Jade and Nia Jax, yeah, you nailed it on the head. I mean, I think we referenced this last week as well. It's just, it feels like we're going around the circles again now with the women's division. Like, Tiff's, she hasn't really gone around that many women since becoming the women's champion, but we're already back to Nia Jax. So I feel like that's a little bit of a strange decision to do this. I'm not saying I would definitely pick Jade right here, right now, but I'm just a little bit curious as to why we've got Jax back in the title picture, only after was it been like 3 months? Has it been something like that since she was last? And I think it was or maybe it was about 4 months actually, because we're in. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But yeah, either way, it's not that long, And I think we'd like to see somebody different in this position. But Nia Jax against Tiff, yeah, we'll just see how it goes, I guess. But Jade looked great. Jade looked great in the matchup. Showcasing what she can do against someone of Nia Jax's stature. Yeah, I guess we're in for part 2 of Nia against Tiff. We'll see how things go. But yeah, ultimately the interaction between Charlotte and Alexa Bliss is quite interesting. The let's chat comment. I actually couldn't even hear it when it was on, so we had to rewind it back and listen to it a couple of times to actually see what she actually said, because it was quite quiet. I don't know if you saw that on your end, but I've noticed that quite recently with those backstage segments. Sometimes they can be a little on the quiet side, but yeah, Charlotte and Alexa, that's interesting. I have no idea what to expect, but I'm definitely keen to how it goes down.
Definitely didn't have that on my bingo card. As far as the volume of the backstage segments, I typically listen plugged in, like on headphones, so that may or may not help a bit with the volume. But my initial thought with bringing back Bliss was that the backstage rumors, if you want to buy into those, were always we don't want to bring back with a clear creative plan. And so in my head, when I see this, oh, so the big creative plan they decided to go with was to bring her back for a random impromptu tag match with Zelina versus Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. That was the grand gesture. But let WWE cook for a minute. Alexa and Charlotte, that could potentially be something, very new, very different. And the first thing that pops into my head is maybe Charlotte just not resonating with the fans, not understanding what they want and need, and then maybe Alexa kind of helping her bring out a darker side of Charlotte, maybe not so cut and paste as we've seen in the past from her heel work. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what they can do with that and how deep they're going to go into that storyline. Hopefully, it's not just a segment to be a segment and they forget about it. But yeah, I'm interested to see where they go with that one. So moving on, we have a tag match between the Street Profits and Fraxium. So main story here is that Street Profits come to the ring clearly still feeling the effects of that TLC match, and far from 100%. Even when they were talking on the mic, you could tell that they were not doing well. They're quickly joined by Fraxim in the ring, who basically say, we're here to be the best. In those words, not exactly, but essentially that's what they were going with here. And they have a tag match. Nick Aldis comes out and says, why don't we go ahead and do this? Which I felt like was, not very fair to the Street Profits, but it is what it is. I still didn't think Fraxim would get the win here, but they did in what was a pretty slow paced match, especially for Fraxium, to start out with until like the last 5-ish minutes. And this was a pretty long match, mind you. Last 5 minutes or so, both teams really picked up the pace. But the main story here was simply Street Profits, not anywhere close to 100%. But a win is a win, and Fraxium now 3-0 on the main roster, I believe, and picking up a win over the tag team champions is yeah, I think KP and I had high hopes for Fraxium when they came on to main, but I think this is short of grabbing gold, I think this is about as good as it can get coming up here. So curious to hear your thoughts on that, KP. Later in the night, we also see Fraxium attacked by DIY, who they were kind of reeling off their win. I think Motor City Machine Guns were saying, congratulations on your wins. Eventually, we're going to cross paths, and being the tag team champs is no small feat. DIY comes and says, basically, you guys are cowards attacking a team that wasn't 100%. So, again, we were kind of, scratching our heads as to why Fraxium was on SmackDown and not Raw, who desperately needs more teams. But regardless, here we are, and SmackDown division is, as good as ever, providing probably the best segment match of the night, if not certainly one of the best. So, yeah, we'll see where that goes, and no shortage of matches, great matches in our future, I believe. We then have an Aleister Black versus Carmelo Hayes, which was announced last week. Um, Aleister Black cuts a promo earlier, who saying he believes he's the consequences that this company desperately needs. And right before that, basically, the Miz cuts out a bit where he says, I can lead you to victory over Alistair. Just I'll be in the right places for you. Um, as the match is going on, I didn't feel like it was anything too special. Pretty even contest for the most part. But the Miz kind of realizing that the match is almost over and Alistair finally has Carmelo where he wants him. He tries to get involved. Alistair moves out of the way. And Alistair, as Carmelo knocks out the Miz, Alistair rolls up Carmelo for the 3 count. So, two finishes in WWE I really, really don't like right now, and that's the roll up finish and the interference. Here we get one of those two. I guess it's understandable considering the two guys you have in the ring wanting to protect both of them. Um, but I think this is obviously far from over, and hopefully, if that's the case, then I'm fine with it. But yeah, I think we're far from over, but I think WWE really just needs to start giving up some losses here and there. I'm not saying every week, but I'm saying occasionally. Let's give up some losses. Carmelo losing to Alistair and vice versa, I don't think is bad for either of them. So maybe this is going to end up being like a best of kind of series, like the Carmelo and Andrade. I'm fine with that as well. But yeah, we'll see where they take this one from here. We did have a tag match, which LDF, Garza, Angel Garza, and Berto. We see them attack Ray Phoenix back earlier in the night. Andrade is there to aid. This ends up being a tag match, which we have here. What's not to like? Four of these guys are very good in the ring, worked very well. Especially, I thought Ray and Andrade looked very good together. I'm not sure 100% where that story's going yet. Obviously, Escobar is not happy with his guys, and Andrade kind of seems to be just thrown in the mix. But I'd rather him be here than nowhere. So I'm not, beggars can't be choosers here. But yeah, this was just a good enough match. I thought everyone was portrayed well here, and like I said, Andrade and Ray beating to get the win. And then we have a John Cena promo who hasn't been here a couple weeks, so getting here, his he doesn't do anything I don't think super special here. He gets a beer bottle thrown at him. I think that's something new I haven't seen in I'm not sure how long. But then he verbally runs down Orton and his family, and also mentions a failed drug test, I believe, for Orton. And then Orton shows up, does the "you can't see me" motion, and gets Cena an RKO for his troubles. So KP, lots to talk about here. Your likes, dislikes, and overall thoughts in this last part of SmackDown and overall.
Yeah, a lot to digest. Starting with that, I guess, shock victory from Fraction over the Street Profits. It was brilliant, right? Obviously with Street Profits selling the effects of the ladder match, the ladder match from a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown. Obviously they want 100%, and that will be brought up going forward, and that will be the defense mechanism from the Profits, and from basically anybody with a sense of rationality. But I think this was perfect. This gave Fraxium the chance to get into the ring with the best tag team on SmackDown. They are the tag team champions, so I guess you can say that's fair. It allowed them to get up in the face of them, and it allowed them to basically just make a statement. And there was a sign of respect afterwards. Both teams shaking hands, hugging it out, whatever. The respect was between the two. Fraxium, they just don't miss, do they? Like you said, it started off a little slow at the start, and for people that have seen these guys on NXT over and over and over again, it's basically all gas, no brakes for the entirety of the match. But I thought they I guess with the main roster, they probably got to have to adapt to the different ways the matches are done. It's not quite the same as NXT. I feel like the tag team dynamic in NXT is a lot different to that on main roster, and that can be good or bad depending on what way you look at it and your likes and dislikes. But for just general sort of like slow progression, the early stages were fine, and then it got really good into like the second half, going into like the final quarter of the contest. But it was brilliant. I thought Fraxium really showed up and showed out. 3-0, like you said, on main roster so far, and they're working their way through the tag division. You got to think they haven't faced DIY, they haven't faced Motor City Machine Guns. So they've still got a couple of big teams to, to try how they fare against. So yeah, I mean, they've had an absolutely brilliant start to their main roster career, and as to how this goes, I would imagine they'd have a tag team championship opportunity going down the line soon at some point. So definitely keen. But what a performance from these guys, as we expect them to be able to put on. The match between Aleister Black and Carmelo Hayes. It was good. I liked seeing Aleister have a bit more of a chance to go compared to his match against The Miz. I think this was a little bit more of a slightly better quality matchup for him. So I thought it was good. Carmelo Hayes looking great since winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I think the whole gimmick that he's got with with Dre around his neck, I quite like that. And I think this is the early stages. The loss doesn't do anything for him here. Aleister's only been back for a coffee so far, so he's not really going to be taking any L's just yet. But this wasn't really that big a deal with Carmelo Hayes taking the loss on this one, and it was it wasn't like a knockout you're done type thing. It was a roll up. So after the mix up with Miz, so yeah, it's absolutely fine. But I think to sort of like creating a little bit of tension between the Miz and Carmelo, I felt like there's always really been there, and maybe they just added that next little level of that tension. With the Miz basically saying, like you brushed over earlier, about how he's going to be in the right places, and he's going to show him how it's done being on the outside. So obviously backfired, didn't work, and Aleister gets the win, looking strong again. The tag team match after that one, I mean, I get what you mean. Andrade, I feel like he could be in a better position than doing this, but at least he's on TV and he's working it at the moment, because I think when you look at the rest of SmackDown at the moment, no one's going to get into that world title picture for the time being, are they? They've got some really big things there with the retirement tour plan. They've got some special stuff going on. Obviously, the United States Championship picture is already loaded, and Andrade's just been in that one. So to have their sort of like own thing going here with Los Garza, with Del Fantasma, Santo Escobar included. Obviously, Dragon Lee's in the mix now as well. There's a lot of names in there, and there's a lot of quality there as well. So yeah, I think the overlapping stories between the two are working out quite nicely. But Andrade looked great. I mean, he always does. He's very consistent. He's one of those guys who you're never really going to get a bad match from. He's always going to give you like an 8 out of 10 from his personal standpoint. But yeah, I think Los Garza, they just continue to impress. I don't really think they were given much of a chance for a long time, but in the past like couple of 2-3 months or so, maybe 4 months, they've really sort of like upped their game and they're really consistent now. So it's good to see them getting their flowers and like being on TV most weeks and being involved in a decent story. So yeah, I mean, no real negatives here from this one, to be honest. It's a good segment to have in the middle of the card, and it just keeps everybody moving along naturally. And I think that's what everyone in this situation needs right now. Obviously, you got the situation between Berto, especially, and Santos Escobar at the end, and they've had a little bit of tension in recent weeks. Angel seems a little bit of a third wheel in the whole situation. Where does he stand between the two men? I think that's probably going to be what we're going to be finding out sooner or later. But yeah, there are lots of elements here, and I'm quite liking how everything's moving along at a steady pace. So it's working well. It's an easy watch, and that's not a bad thing. I think I think that makes sense. The main event, obviously, well, I guess main event. It's the ending segment, I guess, whichever you want to call it. But the John Cena promo, regardless. Yeah, I mean, it was a bit more of what we've been seeing from Cena recently. I think he did a very good job of basically just just trying to rattle Randy Orton. He broke down hustle, loyalty, respect, and he basically said how Randy is none of those things, whereas Cena is all of those things. And yeah, just I think a lot of people I've seen, like, maybe not so keen on the work that Cena's been doing since turning heel. And I think you can separate his in-ring work from his promo work. His promo stuff has been brilliant every single time. He hasn't missed once, I don't think, personally speaking. And I am a Cena fan, so maybe a little bit of bias coming out here. But I just don't think he's doing a bad job at all. I think he's doing great. Just the way he breaks down all his promos, they all feel different. They all feel a little unique to each particular person. Yeah, he has similar elements, with the crowd and the lack of disrespect, or the lack of respect there towards them, and how he feels, literally vice versa towards him from them. Yeah, those elements are similar, but everything that he says about his opponent, they're all very, very different, and I like that. He called Randy Orton lazy, referenced how the whole furniture thing that Randy was going on about a few weeks ago. I just think is great. I really am enjoying this. But obviously Randy Orton coming out at the end and sending his fake in, I suppose, to get hit by an AA. Cena obviously relaxing, feeling confident, gets hit by an RKO afterwards. Randy ends the segment, standing tall. Yeah, perfect ending to SmackDown. Thought it was great. Did what it needed to do, built up the match, a backlash, and then we can talk about that when we get into all of that. But SmackDown, yeah, as a whole, I think it started off a little bit rocky, and then it's sort of like found its feet halfway through the show, and then it just got really steady towards the end. So definitely tale of two halves for me personally. Not that it was bad first half, but it was sort of a bit up and down, and it was a little bit rocky and bumpy. So it was a good show, pretty nice. Going into Backlash, just ironing out a few things, and looking forward to a couple of things going down on that show. But in terms of my overrating for this SmackDown, I'd probably give it like a 7.5 out of 10, maybe even possibly towards an 8, just that sort of area. I think it did what it needed to do, and it's got me interested in a few situations. So nicely done, and I enjoyed it. What about you, Nick? What did you think about it as a whole, though?
Yeah, I thought it in terms of go home shows. I think we got two with Raw and SmackDown this week. I think we got two good go home shows, and not a ton of immediate effect on the show, which I think is a good kind of path for WWE to go down. A lot of times, I feel like WWE feels like they have to put everything that's on that show. They have to do something with it. Like your throwing together tag matches and stuff that we've seen here. They have to do stuff like that. But they really don't have to. They don't have to put anything on there. They can just, give people that aren't on the PLA, they can give them some time here, like the Aleister Black, Carmelo stuff, like the Andrade Ray Phoenix tag match as well. Like, I think that's a better way to go about it. Then we're kind of, they can still touch on it. They can still give us the vignettes for the PLE and that sort of thing. So I like this. I like this idea of what WWE is doing with the go home shows, because otherwise the go home shows just feel like a bit of non-watchable TV a lot of times. So I like the idea of going down just a bit of a different path. So we'll see if they continue to do this going forward. Obviously, Backlash isn't a huge card to begin with, so maybe that just wasn't an option for these go home shows. But regardless, I thought both shows were good this weekend. SmackDown in particular, I thought did really well. I gave this one an 8 out of 10. Um, so yeah, some good weekly shows here for the week and the overall scheme of things. So with that, we will be back shortly for our Backlash recap, talking about everything that happened at Backlash on Saturday, May 10th. And yeah, then we'll be back to our normal weekly programming with the weekly recaps for Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. So with that, this has been another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. And until next time, we'll see you then. Take care.